Enzo. Oh, this is probably too long for a voice note.
Hey Claire, I know. Save it for the podcast.
Your space for an unfiltered and candid conversation.
Skip the small talk and dive in deep.
Hey, here's Enzo.
And she's Claire.
And this is Too Long for a Voice Note.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Who's
oh
back?
my god.
We are back.
We're back for the next part of this new series. How are you guys?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, for coming back. I mean, thank you for being
yeah.
listening. Or as we mentioned at the beginning of the season, we split the season now in 6 episodes and 6 episodes. So we're coming back for the second half of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully you catch up with all the episodes.
I'm
If you
sure everyone
haven't,
did.
well, go for it. Yeah, you're late. But yeah, I'm so excited to go back. It's it's nice to have a break and live life and experience life
Definitely.
and do things and come back with new ideas.
fresh with new ideas.
new-
So we have been entered into the British Podcast Awards. Thank you so much to everybody who's voted so far.
Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
So it's just can vote. So
yeah.
basically, you can just go. We're gonna leave the link.
We're going to leave the link.
Go there. You type beautiful name of our podcast.
Long
Look
for
for a voice note. You click vote, and that's it. So
Exactly.
hopefully, we're gonna be selected
Yeah.
to winners or something. Well, at least being
Imagine.
shortlisted will be so nice.
If we won, I think I'd be like, I'd like to thank.
like a Halle Berry type of Oscar
I have no
speech.
one else to thank apart from you because literally, it's literally
Thank
like,
you to the
us.
only person. Thank you to me. And make this happen every single day. We're having some live interviews as well.
That's
that was
true.
the other
That's
thing.
the other
Yeah,
thing.
the
Yeah,
other
we're having
thing.
some live. So we've got I'm very excited about that guest that we've got coming up.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have our first live on the 15th of August over on Instagram. So if you go there, you'll be able to see us chatting to a very interesting individual.
So you will really love that chat.
Totally.
They're really, really, really. I think it's gonna be a really interesting chat.
I think
and then
so.
we have other ones coming up August, September
Yeah.
probably. So yeah, we're kind of I think it's been a while since we do a live
and
chat.
we love
which-
inviting people onto the
Yeah,
podcast.
it kind of
as
changed the
well.
dynamic in a really good
gives
way.
an empathy.
It's your week,
I'm
right?
gonna go first,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So this
Okay.
is time for Claire's week.
Time for my topic.
Ooh, I'm curious to know
I actually feel a little bit nervous. I don't know why. I think
God.
This has been something that's been bothering me for a while. And I think it's something that I've been waiting in our break.
I wanted to bring it up live. It's like
It rhymes with schmenzmo.
what's been bothering you, Claire?
But it's been
Tell
bothering me for a
everything.
while. I want to talk about who should pay on the first date.
Ooh.
And the reason I want to talk about this is because I've been seeing, I don't know about you, I don't know if it's like my algorithm, women, early 30s, I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not single, I'm in a relationship, but I do get a lot of this content about women in particular saying that it's outrageous if a man doesn't pay on
Oh
a
my god,
first
I
date.
seen this on my Instagram as well, kind of
Really?
last week. Maybe because
This
we
is
shared part of the algorithm as well.
Maybe. We
And
share the algorithm.
We share the algorithm.
Cute.
That's a weird statement to say, but I guess we do sometimes.
Exactly.
I saw this the woman was really pissed about it.
People getting really fired up, and I was
God.
like, is this a new thing that's coming around? Was I living under a rock?
Oh,
I don't know.
Interesting.
But I really want to talk about this. I've got some notes.
Okay,
So I'm going to
okay.
get the laptop and we're
Yeah,
going
get
to
the laptop.
talk through
Get
this.
get the laptop, Claire. Let's get serious in this episode.
So we've got a little bit of statistical information to
Statistical.
statistical
Numbers
to
and
start us
facts.
off.
Yes.
Obviously, we're a British-based podcast, but it doesn't stop us from reading some US statistics.
course, yeah.
So as it turns out, the majority of Americans still hold traditional views on the topic. Over 70% of Americans believe that in a heterosexual relationship, the man should pay on the first date, according to a recent survey. And then I also had some data which was more UK specific, which was pretty much the same, because I was like, is this a British thing? We're going to unpack that, whether it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
As it turns out, though, she's not alone. And this is from an article where the woman was saying that she believes that the man should pay on the first date. A survey run by Elite Singles recently found that 46% of women expected or wanted the man to pay on the first date.
Oh, wow.
Only 18% thought the bill should be split, while the rest remained indifferent. What is your thought on this initially? And I want to ask, obviously, this is me coming from a heterosexual point of view. I want to look at it from other points of view as well. I want to think about cultural differences as well, because this is something that I was talking about with my boyfriend who is Spanish. Obviously, I'm British. So I was like, is this like a factor that's coming into play? What are your thoughts on this topic?
That's quite interesting. Yeah. Like, first thing I think is, it has to be probably a lot to do with like culture, like, and maybe, I don't want to say wokeness, but I think it's depending on how you view life and things as well. Like, I've heard this my whole life, like men should pay for women, like if you're in a heterosexual relationship, but this coming from a point like everyone assume that you have a heterosexual relationship as well. You know what I mean? People always assume that you will be with a woman or with a man if you're a woman, you know? That's part of it, and I think that's where this view comes from a bit as well. And all of these things, like men should be in a position of power, they have more money, and they should take care of their girlfriends and all of that. I think it comes from very a lot of patriarchy at the end of the day. It's kind of like the man should be the provider, the man should be the one who is like taking care of the lady and all of these things. So I think obviously this being displayed like in media, movies, or Disney, whatever, through our whole life, and now it's always been, but it's been like something that we think it's like same as opening the door because you're a woman, which I do, but also like why a woman can open the door for me.
But you hold the door open for men as well. I think you're very polite.
I try.
You know?
Yeah, I try to be, but those things I think I've been clearing from my own cultural bias, because of my own cultural background, because I normally would think like I will open the door for a woman, which I have no issue obviously, because I feel like, but then why someone can open, why a woman can open, and when a woman opens the door for me, I feel a bit like, oh, really? Okay, you know. And I think it goes back to that, like I will be. Normally you would think like, like a man should pay the bill for a woman. That's because I think it's like ingrained in your brain, but I don't think it's right thing.
Just to kind of state my position on this, and the reason why I'm like, no, nobody asked, but here's my position. I found this outrageous. I have never assumed that a man would pay for me on a first date, ever. And this is blowing my mind. Like, I think that there's a difference between like being in a relationship and going on a first date or dating. So let's maybe just stick with like the first date and dating stage. Obviously, when you're in a relationship, I think you tend to like share. You might like have a house together. You may have kids if that's what you want, and then you kind of become like a unit. So that's a little bit different. Also, that is not something that should be broken down by gender. I think that is maybe more like salaries, for example. But when you're in the first dating stage, for me, you don't owe anyone anything. 100%. In that stage, you're literally 100%. Going to meet a randomer who probably like
you won't see again.
Literally, you most likely probably won't. I think the percentage is probably that you're not going to see them again. So why on earth would I expect that man to buy me something? I was really shocked because, like, I don't know if it's again like my background, because I think my mum has always been very independent, like never rely on a man, always make your own money, all of that. But the kind of narrative that I've been seeing online are women who are very like independent, I presume financially independent, very strong, or that I view as like sort of like quite empowered,
like something you will look up for.
Some of them, obviously. Yeah. For example, there's an influencer called Valeria who is like somebody who I quite like. She's our age. I've been following her for a while, and like blah blah blah. And she does have slightly more traditional views than myself, but I still like really admire her. But she was like, no, absolutely not. Like the man should always pay on the first day. If a guy didn't, she's married obviously with 3 kids and stuff, but she was like, if he didn't, I would like never see him again, ever again. And that's what I just said at the top of the episode. Like, have I been living under a rock? Because now I'm thinking back to my single and dating days. Maybe there were instances where the man was expecting to pay for me, but I never went on that date assuming
that someone would pay for you.
I would probably have cancelled a date if I didn't have, like, if it was the end of the month or whatever, and I didn't have like enough money to cover it.
Yeah, definitely. I think those views, because you don't have traditional views on many things. You have more like a, let's say, liberal, I guess, point of view and stuff. Because I think all these like the dynamics on relationships are all based on traditional views, like
Yeah.
opening the door, paying the bill, proposing, all of those things. Everything comes from like certain, like if you are a gentleman, you will do all this set of things. Like
Totally.
I think we mentioned this one, like why it's very uncommon a woman proposing to a man.
Yeah.
And some men may feel uncomfortable about it because they feel that's been taken out from them. For example, I think it's very related to that. And same if I don't pay the bill, they feel a bit like they're not up to the part. Maybe they're not like blah blah blah. But it's all very like, I guess it's at the end. I think it's a lot about control and like power over men over women. And I know a lot of people are not aware of that. A lot of men, they don't do it thinking I'm more powerful and she's under me. I'm sure a lot of men there don't think about it. It's just like naturally ingrained in your way you're they take, like grew up, like you know, like the education and culture,
and it's kind of like it's kind of talking about what like a man should be and what a woman should be, which is fine.
Very
but what I find
conversation.
surprising is that it's coming from women. I'm seeing this coming from women, and that's something that I find very uncomfortable.
For me, it's a fairy tale, honestly. I don't want to be against anyone, but I think, and this may come from obviously my very point of view that I'm not straight, I'm gay, and all of that. But I think a lot of women, they live in this fairy tale because it's being presented in movies and things and like families, like you should be taken care of with that an extra level of care because you're a woman. I know I don't want to sound like mean or something, or I don't want to sound like ungrateful, but it's true as well. I think a lot of times that type of behavior kind of divide us more and actually pushes back the idea of women being independent and having all the rights. Like that kind of like make them, wrap them around this like they're weaker or they're like a thing to take care of as a rose.
Totally.
And which personally I think like I love to take care of my I don't know, like I would feel probably that I would take care more of you than a male friend, which is, if you really think about the core of it, is unfair because maybe, well, unfair. Then we can go like, oh my God, well, probably for women it's more unsafe to be on the streets, so maybe I will take care more of you, blah blah blah. So it's a bigger thing, but I think it comes from all of this like unfair treatment, and I think that's why a lot of women, when they're more independent, they want to be treated fairly, because it's kind of like I don't want you to have an advantage over me, but I don't want to have an advantage over you. It's just be like equals. But I think there's so many layers of it, starting from the first date and like asking for pay for you. I don't know. It's weird. I just feel like those views are really pushing back a lot of progress.
But it's like, if you have your own money and you can pay for your own mortgage and your own bills, why would you want to get off on that first foot with a man and say, I need you to treat me? Don't get me wrong, it's really nice to treat your friends. I love treating my friends. I love to treat my boyfriend like where we can, etc. But once again, for me, on that first date, they are literally a random, most likely, even if you've met off on a dating app, they are nothing to you and you're nothing to them. So why should you, I don't know, like, why give somebody that impression of like, for me, it's like saying like my time is more valuable than your time because you have to pay for it. It's I think it's very strange.
Which this makes me think about, this probably comes back from back in the days when like maybe men have to pay women to be with them.
Yeah.
It's gonna link to like sex work, for example. Back in the days, which was probably less fair than it is. Probably nowadays I would like to think that it's more fair and it's more like a choice. But maybe it's a lot of like, for me, it's ownership. It's like,
Same.
I'm paying for your time because you are like, well, back in the days, probably not back in the days, overall, like if you paying a woman to be with you and to have sex with you, you will pay for it. You will pay the woman as well to be there. So it's about the time. So you're paying for like a service. I wonder if it's a link there from all of that, because back in the days, it was not like a thing you're going to restaurants to have drinks, right? It was a different type of dynamics. And I think a lot of those things come back from those traditional back in the days views that didn't evolve as, I don't want to say in the same way that everything else, but it kind of like actually, I don't know why it didn't evolve in the same speed.
I think also you have to remember that, like, I think it was like until fairly recent history, like I want to say the 70s or something, that women could actually have their own bank account.
You're right.
They could have their own bank
right.
account and therefore they could pay for their own things. That's recent history, you know, like our
that's
parents
so
were
right.
alive then. So
You're
that's
so
not, so
right.
I wonder if it's more like a hang up of that, of like literally if you wanted to
100%,
invite a woman on a
yeah.
date, you would have to pay
Because they cannot pay.
because they don't have any money.
And they don't have jobs. That's so right. I think that makes sense. Yeah,
Right?
that makes total
Totally.
sense.
What about
100% sense.
an argument that I've also seen, which, well, let me say it neutrally, that, for example, if you and me were going on a date, how much money do you think I would have to have spent already to get myself there looking like I look now, for example, and how much money would you have to spend? So that's another argument that women make. Well, look at this cream, this serum, this, I've done my hair, I've done my
That's a very
waxing, I've
interesting-
done...
that's a very interesting
This is an
argument.
argument that I see a lot, whereas you might just have a shower, put a face cream on and call it a day. So that's another argument that I've seen a lot. What do you think about that?
I mean, to be fair, it's a lot of work, to be honest. If you think about, the thing is, like, again, no one is forcing you to do all of that.
That's
and
what I
that's based
think.
on social, conditions, like social, I don't know, build concept, or
Totally.
like a woman needs to be, have to do the hair, the makeup, the nails, the dress, this. Like, it's very complicated because it's something like, I'm sure women, they want to do it because they like that, or they like, I don't know how to explain it. It's
Sexist. Women like that.
They like to look beautiful for men. No, but it's just like, I don't want to say like they're forced to do it, because you can be a woman, you can love to have makeup. You
Yeah.
love makeup, not
Yeah.
because for men, because you like it.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? It's
Yeah.
as simple as that. But I feel like, I mean, it's an interesting argument because I can see the point. I see the point, like, men, they have to do the bare minimum, and women, they need to do way more. But then it's weird to treat this as a transactional setting, like a transactional activity, like just because I take more time. And because if we go to that, so I know I'm traveling more than you, so you need to pay more than me. So we need to like do divisions from everything.
And also for
I
me,
get it, but it's fucking weird.
I think it's a bit of a reach, because also
It's a reach,
I
yeah.
find it unfair as well, because it's like, also you're meeting this once again, presumably random person. You don't know their circumstances. It's different if you know their circumstances. For example,
100%.
but why should they pay? Like, why
Yeah.
should they pay? Society is fucked, don't get me wrong. Like Enzo
Yeah.
said, like, I love makeup, I love beauty and all of that. I very much do it for myself because I love it. There are lots of people
maybe-
that don't, you know, and that's something that needs to be looked at. Like, a lot of things need to be looked at in our culture. But why should the random guy from Hinge have to pay? Do you know what I mean? Like, once again, it's like, and also like, that guy might not like you wearing makeup. He might like a fresh face.
You're just
He
assuming.
might like not want it if you have laser on your body, for example. Maybe he likes like full bush or
It'll
something.
be
you
like,
know?
oh, I don't care if you did it. I don't want to pay for that.
Exactly.
Not in that way.
So that's unfair. You can't blame. For me, you can't blame. Yes, it's unfair. Typically, women earn a lot less than men, and typically
on top of
women
that, they
probably
need to
pay
spend more money
exactly,
on beauty,
etc.,
things
etc.
like that.
Can men get away with just literally? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
Is that the individual's problem? For me, no. Okay, so moving on. There are two things I want to talk to Enzo about. The first one is like your experience with this as a gay man. So what has been, because you've dated, you obviously would go, obviously now you're in a relationship, but you would always go on first dates or dating with men. What was your experience of that? Was it, I'm assuming that is more 50-50.
It's more 50. Yeah, I was thinking, when you bring up the topic we're talking about, I was thinking in the back of my mind all my experiences, and they were like they were interesting. And I think, like, obviously, like in a relationship where there are two men or two women, I assume as well, I think those like preconceptions or pre-ideas of things are more blurry. They're less obvious. So I guess, for example, like, I think it happened to me that I've been on dates and the other guy wants to pay. And I'm like, and maybe because they have more than me, or maybe sometimes I feel like I need to pay. But I don't know, because also, obviously, I don't know, that's just interesting, because again, both men, they will all both programmed to pay first because it's like the thing, but what happened with both are the same thing.
Yeah.
And it happened to me that I'm going to dates and the other person has forced like, no, don't worry, I pay. And it happened to me. And I was like, well, okay, fair. I think it happened to me more times. People wanted to pay for me, actually.
Maybe you give like a poor
Like a
fund.
I was thinking more, I was giving like, like a beautiful man that deserves to be paid for his time with me, It's interesting. I think like, obviously it's more 50-50 and I've been many dates, which is like, we just split.
Yeah.
But also being like in a situation when they want to pay, but it's more like, it's not assuming they want to pay. It's more like, no, I can get this one and you
That's
get
nice.
a drink later.
That's cute.
It's kind of more that dynamic. It doesn't feel like no one expect, because it's weird, like no one who expected, you're equally expected to pay, which is
Yeah.
different with like a man and a woman that I guess more women are expecting the men to pay. I feel if I really like the person, I will insist to pay.
If you really liked them.
If I really like the person.
Okay.
So, like, that's something like maybe that make me think maybe they're not thinking I'm poor. Maybe they really like me, Claire. They really like me, No,
I'm
but
sure they
personally,
loved you.
but personally, if the date is not going super great, I don't really love the person. I'm like, yeah, let's split. It's like, fuck it, I don't want to pay this drink for her.
This
for
is
him,
interesting
for her, for him.
because
Yeah.
this is something that I found in my research actually, that basically a lot of women found that they were thinking like, oh, he doesn't like me because he hasn't paid, which means that pretty much every day I went on, they didn't like me, which probably could have been
like
the case.
me. I mean, in the 2 men or 2 women, I guess, like a type of setting, I think it's because it's more equal since the beginning. I think it's kind of like, well, you feel more. I think it's not that bad. I don't know. It's a complicated one, I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like if I'm liking the date, I'm feeling okay paying it. I don't have any issues. If I don't like it that much, it's like, we can split then.
And what about like cultural differences? Because my boyfriend and I were talking about this topic before. I've been talking about this all week, honestly. I've been really excited to talk about this topic because
Poor guy.
I've been
Bless
seeing
him.
it everywhere. And yeah, anyway, because my boyfriend is Spanish, he said that he thinks that in Spain, in general, it's the norm for the man to pay.
Obviously, yeah.
And we were like trying to work out if like I am the way that I am because I'm British.
Why am I like this? Mom, help me.
But no, because the research that I found that British women as well expect the man to pay.
Interesting.
But I was wondering, because obviously Latin America is quite influenced by Spain.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, what's your experience in like Latin America or Venezuela? And obviously you can't generalize, but with this.
Before going into that, did Jorge tell you that your boyfriend, that he has felt pressure in the past to pay for dinners or things like that on dates?
Yes, he definitely said that he thought that sometimes he said that he would always tell the girl, like, let's split it.
Okay.
Which is what he did with me as well. And
Good.
I was like, bitch, you pay for my drink.
little Spanish bitch.
Obviously joking. Obviously, I really liked that he was like, let's split it. I think I said, you know what, now I'm thinking about it, maybe I always say, let's split it. I think I always say that at the beginning.
I think because you want to avoid that uncomfortable moment of the main paying for your time of the dinner.
And
you're
now
like,
I'm having
"Let's split it."
flashbacks, actually,
Oh,
because I had a date with a really lovely guy, like shortly just before I met my boyfriend. And I was like, let's split it. And he was like, are you sure? And I think he
wasn't
was
expecting
lovely.
that.
But
Interesting.
he was from like a culture that I think might be quite
Complicated with those
macho
things.
kind of culture.
All right, okay.
But I think that he was like, are you sure you can pay for it?
yeah.
And I was like, obviously. But anyway, with Jorge,
that's
he said that
interesting.
he thinks that the girls sometimes had the expectation that he would pay.
Of course. That's interesting. I would like to have that conversation with Jorge, actually.
Yeah.
I think because Jorge is also very woke. So
Yeah.
that's probably, you're like, yes, I found a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So probably he's more aware than, let's say, regular straight men.
Exactly.
He thinks a bit further. So probably it's like,
Because I would have been offended, if it, not offended, that's a bit extreme. I would have been disgusted. No, but I would be a bit like, why do you think I can't pay for my drink?
Yeah, definitely. Interesting.
Outrageous.
But yeah, like going back to the Latin American thing, definitely is very much as like Jorge was telling you. Like, I feel like, I don't know if it's more or less, but definitely like from experience in Venezuela, and I think if you speak with any of my friends or like family members, they expect, not like my friends, they expect that, but they will tell you very much the same thing I'm telling you. Like, it's normally to think like men will pay things for women, and I think for many cases it's gonna be one of the first filters. Like, if a man doesn't pay, and I've heard this before many times, if a man doesn't pay for you, that's so wrong and so bad that you definitely shouldn't date a man, because it's that expectation that men should provide you, men should have a car, and men should take you to the nice restaurant, the fancy restaurant. Also culture, right? Also telenovelas and soap operas, like they have those messages like reinforced so badly, and so like it's very like, it's almost like a brainwashing at some point. Like, wow, like how we have those things insert into our brains and we just think that's how it should be. And yeah, like, and I can assure you, like, people that probably I love and I love what they think and the way they are, probably they will think like women should be not paying in a first date and maybe a few dates after as well. I'm 100% telling you.
It's crazy, honestly.
It's people that I love and I admire and I respect, but they will have those views.
But I think it's just like, you know, for me, trying not to be judgmental about this, because obviously I have like a very judgmental. I think I have a very fixed mindset about this. For me, I think it's like I think no one can change my mind. Like, I think with a lot of these videos that I'm seeing, like, I don't think I could change someone's mind who thinks that. No, because for me, like, this is really bad, because it's like, if you need to make yourself pretty and the man takes you out and he's treating you, then you owe him something. And what that thing is sex.
Oh, it's sex, yeah.
And that's really not the right place to start a relationship from, in my mind.
I agree.
Completely. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's
go back
I agree. I
agree. Yeah. No, I think we go back to, we were saying before, like, you know, a few decades ago, women didn't have the opportunities, the means to pay or to choose where to go or things like that, because men, they were the ones who had the power literally to take them for dinner. So that literally stayed over time, and it became a tradition, as most of things, like we spoke about this before, why weddings are how they are, because a tradition from back in the days, like that transition of a man that is the father owning the daughter and then pass it to another man who is the new owner, you know, all of this back in the day, acts of like performative things that were normal back in the day, they just stay. And now we have that. Now they're just like a bit more funny and more light, but the background of it it's really fucked up again, as the paying for the dinner. Like, it's really complex.
I really want to have this conversation with my mum again.
I
don't know, because I don't know, I always feel like my mum was very woke for her generation, born in like the late 50s. Maybe she had quite woke parents. Maybe my grandparents were quite woke, because I think my grandma was very independent and always worked, and like had like 4 kids but always had a job. And I don't know, because my mum, I don't know, like my mum, I always feel like, from what I could see, was always paying for herself, or I don't know though, maybe.
That's interesting. I want to ask my mom as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what's the perspective on my mom.
And I really want to hear from friends. I was actually going to drop this question in our friendship group, but obviously Enzo was in the group, so I didn't want to ruin the topic. But I want to drop it. I want to drop that.
Let's drop it, yeah.
Because we have like definitely like, you know, a mix of like, you know, straight, gay, like, so I'm very curious to see. I am thinking that this is very personal, actually, and I think this comes a lot from our parents, as everything does, and from our cultural backgrounds.
Myths of like layers of things. A lot of things.
I don't know if it has a lot to do with like gay, straight. I don't think that does. I think it might be. I think that maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you've grown up in like with Italian heritage in a Latin American country.
You're fucked, basically.
But you're a gay man. I feel like you've still got that quite strong like protector kind of like 100%, mindset kind of thing.
I agree.
Even though I don't know. So I'm thinking that it's less to do with sexuality and a lot to do with our own cultural background and what we've seen in our families, maybe.
Yeah, I guess not sexuality, but it's like the programming. The gender identity, right? Because I think a lot of times I'm kind of like revisiting myself and how I act, because I have a set of rules in my brain that are set because my culture, not because my mom maybe told me to do it. It's just the society, like opening the door, which I have no problem to open the door to anyone. But, you know, these little things, so like invite for dinner or protection more for women, which in some cases, yes, as we spoke before, like if it's gonna be dark at night, blah blah blah, I will be more protective of you because it's more possible to something happens to you than to me because society in cities or whatever, all this fucking shit that happening around. But yeah, it's like peeling layers, and I think that's what happens a lot of times. A lot of people don't want to peel the layers.
I will definitely say,
I love this topic.
don't like throw a guy out if you really like the guy just because, you know, like you were saying, like that's the first filter. I will say that's really wrong, and there's so many other things to judge somebody on.
Than
like how they
meal.
treat you, right? Rather than like who they are as a person, how much empathy they have, whatever, rather than if they pick up the bill or not, my opinion.
And no one owns you anything, guys. That's the first rule. Like you're meeting a stranger, the stranger doesn't owns you shit. Owns you like respect, which is something that we own to everyone all the time. Totally. But they don't own you more than that. It's just and that's part of like changing your mentality and being more fair for everyone, because you know everyone has feelings and needs and things, so whatever.
Very interesting topic.
Thank you, love,
I mean,
for this topic.
I'm like very interesting topic.
Like I'm so great. Like no, thank you very much, love, to bring this topic. I really loved it. It's a really, really good topic. So
please let us know. We're going to drop it on our friendship group.
Yes.
But you guys need to drop us a comment and let us know, because I think this is quite controversial.
Ask your friends and then come back with us, like with some.
Tell us where you agree and don't agree and why. And I would love to hear. I would like to have my mind changed on this. I don't think I will, but I would like someone to try.
You're like, I want like people to try this. I want to like. I'm set on this. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, love. And thank you very much for listening and watching and whatever. And see you next episode.
See you next week. Bye. Guys.